All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom, salutations to the hopeful elect, fighting a good fight of faith and truth, in sincerity and wholeheartedly. Shalom unto the Akwath, which is the women believer. Shalom unto you. All praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. The kings of the earth are in cahoots to go digital. Why in the hell Iran talking about receiving Bitcoin? So I got a series of videos to show. Lord willing, this don't be too long, but if your eyes is open and your ears is open to receive, the men of the Lord been telling you, that all of this is going to lead to the MOTB. Obviously, that's prophecy. But, everything that's going on in the Middle East, which the Lord have his finger in everything. But as the scripture says, he have hardened Pharaoh's heart. So, Esau thinking that he actually doing something, but he actually just playing into the Lord's hands. But all of this is to go digital. All of this is to bring forth the new system. Right now, the so-called Middle East, the Eastern Hemisphere, that part of the world, because we over in the Northwestern Hemisphere, they're crashing that side of the world. The Lord saving the best for last. But listen up.
We were seeing Bitcoin rise, right? Because we've got this risk on rally today. And then I thought it was really interesting, Iran saying it wants to be paid its tolls that it wants through ships making passage through the Strait of Hormuz. It wants it to be paid in cryptocurrency. Yeah, Financial Times having the scoop out this morning. And it's so fascinating, Julie, just to see the momentum that this led not only to crypto stocks. We see Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, seeing even more momentum as we make our way into today's trading session. But also we see that also heading over to crypto stocks like Robinhood or Coinbase, that rally extending within those risk-on stocks as well. Also fascinating just to think of this actually happening. This is sort of a move, from what I understand, as far as the Financial Times report goes, that would really sort of set the scene for cryptocurrency being used in this sort of case scenario. I was reading a few different reports, CoinDesk sort of saying that this really is momentum behind bypassing traditional banks, especially in this high stakes geopolitical environment. And so certainly this momentum then being rippled into what we're seeing in crypto this morning. Yeah, but we'll see if it's any kind of sustained momentum, right? Just as we would pose that question, I guess, for the rebound that we're seeing overall, but we'll see if there is any kind of staying power. And if this actually happens, Julie, it remains to be seen if this is actually happening on the ground and what, the longevity of this as well.
So why the hell Iran talking about, demanding crypto for payments, for ships passing the Strait of Hormuz? So it seems like all of these nations is trying to go digital. Now, we all know what's the cherry on top, and that's the microchip inside of people's hands and forehead. All right. So as we continue, to play out the Lord's movie, we're going to see what actions lead to, obviously the conclusion of the matter, the MOTB. See, I feel like this is just a talking point to get people, conditioned to accept, digital currency. Because for the most part, we already dealing with digital currency. Most people carry a credit card. The same technology that's in the credit card is the same technology they trying to put inside you. They said that it's only 3% physical cash in rotation in the world. 97% of it is just numbers in the computer, and that's why most people don't carry cash anyway. Like I said, you pay bills online, you carry a credit card, debit card, whatever. Most people don't carry cash. All right. So the conditioning is already here, but now they just trying to put it out there like, hey, a lot of people don't even trust the dollar anyway. And, when it really comes down to it, the dollar is so inflated and it's been in debt for so long. This is Esau Edom He recognizes that, the dollar is not going to hold its weight anymore. So we got to crash it. But the thing is, it's just prophecy, you know? So he have his mind of crashing it, and bringing it forth because he was able to control the people with the dollar. Now, the nations is trying to work around it.
The United States just lost a war it didn't even know it was fighting. While Washington celebrates military victories and economic growth numbers, the real battlefield has shifted to something much more dangerous: the war for the global payment system. This week, something unprecedented happened in the shadows of international finance. Brazil quietly activated the BRICS bridge system, and for the first time in 80 years, major economies completed cross-border transactions without touching a single U.S. bank. The American media is not reporting this story, but I can tell you, as someone who spent decades inside the system, this is not just another trade deal. This is the financial equivalent of splitting the atom, and the explosion is coming. You see, the United States has enjoyed what we call monetary imperialism for nearly a century. Every time you buy oil, coffee, or electronics anywhere in the world, those transactions flow through New York banks. Washington collects a tax on every trade, every investment, every breath of the global economy. But that monopoly just ended, and most people don't even realize it happened. My name is Paulo Nogueira Batista Jr. I served as executive director at the International Monetary Fund. I sat across the table from finance ministers of collapsing nations. I know how empires fall. They don't collapse from outside invasions. They collapse when their money stops working. And the American money is about to stop working. Let me explain what happened this week in Brazil. President Lula signed an executive order that sounds boring to most people, but this order just declared independence from the U.S. financial system. Brazil can now trade directly with Russia, China, India, and South Africa using our own central bank digital currencies.
So you see, everything is digital currencies. And another thing too. So back in 2021, 2022, it was this thing going around on the internet called Operation Sandman. For some reason, you can't find that no more. But basically, it said that all these nations was going to drop the dollar at the same time, and that was going to cause the financial collapse. So that always stuck in the back of my head. I've been saying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai that the BRICS is just a military and financial alliance. Number one is scripture anyway, But these nations, matter of fact, real quick, so this is where we at in prophecy. So it said, and whereas you sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. So, they make all of these deals with other nations. As the scripture said, the kings, commit fornication with her, So, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. For the most part, it goes into, the 10 horns, which is America's allies, which is known today as the European Union, NATO as the whole, name of it. But the thing is that even these other nations, they starting to look at America a little funny, because the scripture says that, behold, I have made you small among the heathen, you are greatly despised. That's Obadiah 1 and 2. And then the next verse 3, say, the pride of your heart have deceived thee. So, the Lord have a tyrannical spirit on this man. He's doing a lot of things that's making the nations not like the whore. Okay? Because that's what it's called in Revelation 17, the whore. All right? So, so going back to Operation Sandman, when the Lord said that suddenly shall the sown places appear in sown, like, that's unexpectedly. One day, you're going to wake up and your whole life is going to change. And the prophet's been telling you that this day is approaching. Like this man is talking about, this ain't going to be on the news. It's going to be propaganda on the news. They're going to tell you that they went into war, everything is all right. But the real news is that America is not winning the war. They wasn't winning the war. That's the reason that, you know, America was like, hey, all right, we will make a ceasefire. But of course, Israel, the small hats, the Amalekites in the scriptures, they had to be like, nope, we ain't doing that. So they want to bomb Palestine, 24 hours later. So, so
dollars, no SWIFT system, no permission from Washington. Think about what this means. When Brazil sells soybeans to China, we no longer convert our reais to dollars first. We settle the trade instantly using blockchain technology backed by our central banks. The transaction is faster, cheaper, and completely invisible to US regulators. For 50 years, America's greatest weapon was not their military, it was SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications.
Because when it comes to this dollar, everything is interlocked with it. Everything is pinged to the dollar. Now the dollar is losing its luster, it's lacking its luster. And nations is making, deals outside of that. But at the end of the day, that's why I want to title this video, The Kings of the Earth Are in Cahoots to Go Digital. Because why? Because this is how you know that Esau, as the scripture says, the earth is given into his hands. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Job 9:24. He still run things. Okay. Scriptures, prophecy, put it that way, just says that he's going to lose at the end, and that that these kings. Matter of fact, real quick. It said, and there come one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth on many waters. That's peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. This is why America is called the great melting pot. Whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So, these nations have been intoxicated by playing the game with America, the political system, the monetary system. But now, remember what it said in Jeremiah 51:7? Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. They made all the earth drunken. All right. And now the nations are mad because they realize that they've been made into a fool and they don't want to play the game no more. So now they coming together, trying to get outside the dollar, because these nations seen what America tried to do to Russia. They tired of getting sanctioned, and then, if they don't sanction you, they bomb you. And then put a puppet leader, in that country's leadership, and then that whole country go to shits. So the people see it.
International bank transfer in the world flows through this Belgian company controlled by the US Treasury until now. The BRICS bridge is not just an alternative to SWIFT. It is a declaration of war against monetary colonialism, and it's working. In November 2024, Russia and China settled $20 billion in bilateral trade using this new system. In December, India and Brazil completed energy transactions worth $15 billion.
By how the scripture says in Habakkuk 2:5 that he heap up unto himself all people. He neither keepeth at home, right? So this is another part of that. He's over there in the Middle East, trying to bring Iran in subjection, because that's one of the Arab tribes that they don't have totally in subjection. They don't have a central bank in Iran. They want that. They want the oil, all right? And they also want to shut off, the Middle Eastern oil and get control of that, because they want everything to flow through them. See, it's easier, to crash the system when you got everything in your hands, but the scripture says, matter of fact, let's continue in Revelation 17. Now this is just talking about its allies. What the hell? So this is just talking about the allies, but verse 11, just to let you know that America was made to go into perdition. So it says, and the beast that was and is not, even he is the eighth. So that's the Roman Empire falling and coming back as America through the Renaissance. All right. and it is of the seventh, which is Great Britain, and goeth into perdition. So it was already prophesied. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. Ever since NATO was a thing, these nations was able to live somewhat deliciously. As a matter of fact, that scripture that's in Revelation 18. But these nations was able to live deliciously with America, long as you do what they say. That's what you call a vassal state. So it said, these have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So this is what the kings of the earth have been doing. This is the Lord's will. All right. Until it ain't the Lord's will no more. See, right now, the Lord is stirring things up. So he got nations, building up their little military alliance. BRICS is just another form of NATO, you know. So you got these nations, building their alliance, their military and political, military and financial alliance against America. Because really, it's really just America and Israel versus the world.
January 2025, South Africa joined the network. The numbers are still small compared to the global economy, but remember, every revolution starts with small numbers. The internet started with a few university computers. The United States.
Bitcoin's very powerful. It's all becoming powerful. So many people now, they want to pay you in crypto. They want to pay you in Bitcoin. And we have to be at the top of it. Bitcoin.
So you see Bitcoin, they've been talking about Bitcoin for like the past couple of years now. Digital currency, period. Iran talk about they want to see payments in cryptocurrency. Come on now. You see where everything is going?
We get back to New York. Bitcoin's.
The United States.
Already.
What happens if the dollar breaks? Where do people go? Well, I mean, they're going to gold. They're going back to their own.
No, they're not going to gold. So this is the problem with these, people who can give us information, but they don't know the scriptures. The Lord don't deal with them that way. The Lord deal with them to help us out, as Elder Yashawama called them the third witness, which is true. The scripture said that he'll pour out his spirit upon all flesh. So, these people can give you particular truths, but they can't give you the 100% truth. Ain't no going back to gold. First of all, that's, as they call it, God's money. All right. And the kingdom of heaven, when that be set up, then gold and silver will be currency again. But right now, no, it ain't no gold gonna be the next money. It's going to be a microchip. It's going to be digital currency.
Currencies. They're buying real assets. But the important thing is what happens to America. What happens to...
Also, he, if I'm not mistaken, I know his last name is Schiff. Oh, it's right there, Peter Schiff. All right. So anyways, he actually sells gold. So obviously he's always going to be trying to get people to invest in gold because he's a gold seller, but that's not where it's going.
Our economy, because our economy is predicated on the dollar's reserve status. It doesn't work. If we can't run $1 trillion a year trade deficits, it doesn't work. Because we don't have the factories anymore. We don't have the infrastructure, the supply chains, the trained workers. We rely.
So this, and all of this happened under Nixon. He actually deindustrialized America. This all happened it started in the late 60s, going into the early 70s. And then also he took the gold standard off the dollar. And then the dollar was backed up by the sword in a false hope that, that this paper will get you the things that you need. So yeah, we are a consumer nation, not a producer. Back then, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, we was a producer nation. And I don't like to say we, but America was a producer nation. And back then, Jake was doing a little good for themselves, But when they started taking the companies and shipping it overseas, then the welfare system came and, They got into Eve's head and just been hell ever since. But it's all to fulfill prophecy. The scriptures goes into that, Deuteronomy 28.
On the rest of the world to produce what we can't. And because we don't really have any savings, we're all in debt, we rely on the rest of the world to save for us and lend us money. And so when the world doesn't do that anymore, when it's no longer willing to supply us with goods and lend us money, what do we got? How does this economy function?
It don't function because this currency and this system was backed by the sword. Okay? But now what the scripture say in Joel 3:10, let the weak say I'm strong. The nations ain't scared anymore. The nations like, fuck this. We got to do something. You know, they're having their little secret alliance going on. And, you know, matter of fact, Revelation 18. But I'm going to let him talk a little bit more.
Because, you know, you look at who are the biggest employers in America? FedEx, UPS, Walmart, Amazon. Like, what do those companies do? They transport and sell imported goods. But what happens when we can't afford to import the goods anymore? Well, there's nothing to drive around. There's nothing, the shelves are empty. So,
and this is why they want to have robots replacing people. You don't got to pay them. Okay? So so basically Esau Edom knows that he had but a short time. He understands that his system is falling. So he's going to do whatever it takes to try to keep it afloat. So that means if he got to kill people and replace them with robots, that's nothing to him. And it sounds crazy, but you don't know the man that you're dealing with. Scripture said never trust thy enemy, and our people don't even know who their enemy are. So everything he's saying, and this is why it said, how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. So this is the fate that America is going to have. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. This is the way, as you see, this is how America talks, especially Trump. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. She shall be utterly burnt with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her, lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning. So the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, lived deliciously off of her. Everything that he's talking about is in the scriptures. These nations get money hand over fist. They sell their goods in exchange for paper money. But that's coming to an end.
All those workers lose their jobs at the same time that consumers can't buy anything. You know, we're a service sector economy, but that only works so long as we can outsource the manufacturing. Well, we can't do that if the world doesn't want our dollars anymore.
And that's why the Lord, you know, he said you should have came to him before the evil day draw nigh. But I'm not going to read the first two scriptures because I just basically gave you a conclusion of what it said. The first two scriptures talks about, you know, coming to him in your youth before the evil day draw nigh, before, you know, the stars stop shining, the sun get dark, and the moon. All right, all of that. And then verse 3, it said, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, that's jobs, because they are few, and those that look out the window be darkened, that's no future, and the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low, which is already low. Shit trash. All right, but yeah, so this is what's coming, this is what's happening, and a lot of people feeling it. A lot of people look for jobs, realize there ain't no jobs out there, and then you either overqualify for a job or you're not qualified for a job. All right, they be asking you for some crazy experiences for jobs that don't even need that type of experience.
The only way the world's going to trade with us is if we have something to trade other than paper. We'd have to have.
This is why they trying to crash the system. This is why they done with the dollar. This is why they want to bring forth the market of beast. Number one, it gives them more control. All right, programmable money equals more control. It said that you cannot buy or sell except you have the mark.
Of products. See, the reason.
And also, the nations, so like I said, the kings of the earth are in cahoots to go digital because the kings of the earth still want to eat too. One thing about money, money is a motivator. They ain't trying to lose the riches that they have. So they still trying to find a way, to defeat this whore, but still stay rich. So they feel like, okay, yeah, we can do the digital thing as long as I'm still getting my money. And what I feel is that they all gonna fight about who's gonna run it. Okay? But like I said, we at right now, everything is just spiritual discernment, and we just gonna see how it play out. But as you see, as we get closer to the end, prophecies get more plain and things just get more clear.
That countries export is to import. Your exports pay for your imports. But we're able to import without exporting because people want our dollars. Well, when they don't want our dollars anymore, then we got to make stuff. But you can't just, make stuff the way you print money. Making stuff requires real capital investment.
Yep, and that's why automation is, their goal. Yeah, we can make robots make things at a rapid rate. Don't have to pay them, and then on top of that, that would make things cheap. And then the scripture says what it says. They should think themselves to be in a good case. People should think themselves to be in a good case, and then sore famine and great confusion was to be happening at that same time.
Ours, the factories and the infrastructure.
And that's 2 Ezra 16 and 21.
That we don't have anymore. We had it 100 years ago, 50 years ago. We don't have it anymore. It's gone. And it's going to take a long time to rebuild it. Now, maybe AI and robots, maybe that'll help, I don't know how.
Yeah, it will help, just not you. AI is not going to help the people. It's going to help them. All right? To replace the people that they're trying to get rid of. And that is what people don't get.
What the timeline is there, but we've got a lot of work to do. But we're in for a rude awakening because Trump has got it completely backwards. He says the world's been ripping us off. We've been ripping off the world.
We've been ripping off the world by giving them this fake money. And the nations finally realized it. But as we read, the Lord put them in a trance, to basically to stay down with America. Even though they treating you like shit. It's like a woman who getting beat all the time, but she's scared to leave. That's how the nation's been. But now they fed up. All right. Diary of a Mad Black Woman. You ever seen that? But anyways, oh man,
we've been living off the world. We've been riding on a global gravy train. They're the ones that have gotten the short end of the stick, and that's why I think that as the world dumps the dollar, there's going to be an economic boom outside the United States, because I think that we have been a burden.
Yeah, you have been a burden to these nations. But here's the thing. I put it like this. After this shit crash, the Lord is on his way back. It ain't going to be no China and Russia being the top dogs for a couple of years. It ain't going to be China or Russia or Iran, whoever is going to be the next financial power. We are at the end, okay? Let's go back. Because people got to understand the judgment of Babylon the Great.
That the global economy has been forced to bear, especially a lot of the emerging markets, the BRIC nations, they have borne a lion's share of that burden. And I think when the dollar collapses, this is going to let loose an economic boom, because what's going to happen is all of our purchasing power is transferred to other people. So all the factories that produce all the goods, they keep pumping stuff out. The difference is Americans don't get it. People in other countries get it. Their lives are now better. They have more stuff. They have greater purchasing power. And when the world stops financing our debt, they're not going to stop saving. They're just going to use their savings in their own economies. They're going to invest in expanding their own productive capacity.
So yeah, all these nations, want to go digital. because they see that the dollar is crashing and they just trying to find another way, to stay afloat. And the rulers that be obviously told them this is the way to go, you know. But as the scripture says in Proverbs 21:1, the Lord's have the king's heart. Okay? He control the king's heart and move it whatsoever he will. So if he wanted to put the spirit on all these nations to go digital, to bring forth the mark of the beast, that's what is going to happen. All right. So anyway, this is what's going to happen to Babylon the Great. Now I don't have to read Revelation 13 and 16 because you should know that scripture by heart. He calls of all, both small and great, rich or poor, free or bond, receive a mark in their right hand. Verse 17. And if he don't have the mark, he cannot sell or buy. Okay? He can't buy or sell except he that have the mark or the number of his name. All right? So, for 1 hour, this is what's going to happen to Babylon the Great, because the nations is going to get mad and shoot missiles on this place. For 1 hour, so great riches has come to naught. Every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors, as many as trade by sea, stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city? Because they've been making so much money with it. And now they're like, damn, what we going to do now? Go into captivity. That's what you're going to do. All right? And it said, and they cast dust on their heads, cried, weeping, wailing, alas, that great city wherein made rich all that has ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness, for 1 hour she is made desolate. Damn. All right. But yeah, so everything is looking like the MOTB is right around the corner. World War III is just getting started. Hey, prophecy is being fulfilled. Our salvation is nearer than we believe. So you better seek ye out the Lord while he may be found. And shalom.